From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Tariffs take hold and pork producers feel the squeeze.
We had hoped that we wouldn't come to this day where we would actually see the tariffs put in place.
In agribusiness, markets bounce after trade news.
This has been priced in. We've had a $2 decline in beans. We've had about a 60-cent decline in corn.
Trade may be in turmoil, but used equipment sales are steady, and it's blackberry picking season in Tennessee.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. This morning marks the start of the first full trading week as tariffs from China, Mexico, and Canada fall on U.S. products. China reacting to U.S. tariffs on Friday, putting their own 25% duty on $34 billion worth of U.S. goods. News which is worrying all corners of the ag industry.
We had hoped that we wouldn't come to this day where we would actually see the tariffs put in place. So it's a sad day for dairy. It's a sad day for agriculture that we've come to this. We have a lot of trust in our negotiators. We're hoping that this will be quick.
Both Canada and Mexico also placing tariffs on U.S. products following the administration's tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. Canada tacking on $12.6 billion in duties Sunday. Mexico placing its second round of tariffs on almost $3 billion worth of U.S. goods, most of them ag goods, with tariffs varying from 15 to 25%. Now, ag traders watching the markets following a bounce on Friday.
The trade war is officially on, and the grain markets were able to rally. We saw sharply higher closes in the soybean market and also in the corn market, and this was, of course, following some bearish news, so I suppose this is a buy the rumor, sell the fact situation for the moment. Now, I don't know necessarily that these markets are out of the woods just yet. Keep in mind that the soybean market had lost $2 a bushel. The corn market had lost 70 cents a bushel prior to Friday's rally. So we've retraced a little bit, but we've got a lot of work to do to get back to levels that we saw back in the middle to later part of May.
Meanwhile, the National Pork Producers Council reacting. They say American pork producers will face a financial crisis if the tariffs continue. MPPC says pork exports to China now face a 62% tariff. Combined with Mexico, a full 40% of all pork exports are under some sort of retaliatory tariff. Betsy Gibbon has a reaction from Farm Country.
The war was lost on trade many years ago.
During a rally in Montana, President Trump standing by his economic promise of improving trade, citing the need to protect intellectual property and improve mounting trade deficits.
You know, when they were saying not a free trader, I said, no, the war was lost, but now we're going to win it. And because we have all the cards.
Ag organizations with an outpouring of concerns as last week China, Mexico, and Canada implemented tariffs on U.S. products, including the pork industry, hit again by tariffs. Producers say they're now losing money.
We've seen somewhere between a 10 and 20% price drop off of our gross sales, and which, you know, our given profit margins we have, that's enough to take a majority chunk out of our profits right there.
I just have to have a little faith that the administration will handle this in a quick manner and get it taken care of.
Yet some economists believe the administration's trade threats with Canada and U.S. allies are less of a threat to the U.S. economy.
There'll be a lot of individual disruptions, a lot of workers laid off, but an economy that's gaining 200 to 250,000 jobs a month, that will be noise. It will be lost in the overall growth of the economy, and that's one way in which Trump has gotten lucky in this case.
And while the general economy may weather the storm, overall the ag sector is feeling a pinch. Scott believes the biggest threat to farmers is the U.S. dollar.
The U.S. dollar is rising in value, and that makes U.S. exports, especially of commodity products like soybeans, under increasing downward price pressure. And that's what farmers really are worried about and what they talk about every day.
Waiting in anticipation of what's going to happen and how long it may last.
I do not view myself as a single issue voter. I'm not going to walk in and vote strictly about trade or my own personal economy. But at the same time, it affects it, right?
As farmers and economists watch, they wait if the first shots in this trade war ultimately determine whether it can be won. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. The nonprofit Farmers for Free Trade responding to the tariff news. Executive Director Brian Keel saying the trade war is multiplying every day. Quote, from China canceling soybean orders to cheese exports to Mexico plummeting to farm equipment prices rising. The stories of financial loss are now rolling in from farms across America. Action will only create more nightmare stories of farmers' livelihoods being squeezed out. End quote. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue telling reporters last week he's hopeful an updated North American Free Trade Agreement can be finished soon. He says work with Mexico is nearly wrapped up. Negotiators plan to move shortly to Canada to fix lingering trade issues there. President Trump saying recently he wouldn't sign a new deal until after the midterm elections. All three countries have been working toward a new deal for almost a year now. Cindy Clausen joins us with a quick look around farm country. She has today's crop comments.
Good morning, Clinton. Let's start over in Ashley, North Dakota. Mark Roridge sent us this picture late last week of hail nicking the crops. Mark says that the area saw 60-mile-per-hour winds and there's some green snap in fields because of it. All in all, Mark says it could have been worse. Over in a different part of the U.S., Ryan Bright in Philadelphia, Tennessee is making sure his girls have plenty of clean water on a hot day. He says temperatures have been lingering in the 90s. Many of us have been seeing these warm temperatures. And we've been seeing warm temperatures all across the nation. We're going to check out the latest U.S. drought monitor coming up in Maine weather. But for now, here are some hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
Markets turning green following those Chinese tariffs. Well, Mike Flores joins us to discuss the reaction. That's next at the Agribusiness Desk. And later, Machinery Pete is here.
Stay tuned, folks. Coming up, we're going to talk about used hay equipment.
And a summertime favorite from Tennessee. Blackberry season is in full fruit today on In the Country.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
In agribusiness, the U.S. economy adding 213,000 jobs in June. The updated jobs report saying that unemployment rate rose a couple of ticks off an 18-year low of 3.8% up to 4%. Some in the livestock industry say the low unemployment number is even lower in rural areas, and it's been hard to find workers to fill positions.
In a lot of these pork-producing regions, unemployment is even lower than that. Here in Iowa, April unemployment was at 2.8, or May unemployment was at 2.8%. So there's not a domestic supply of workers sitting on the sideline to take care of these animals and create job growth and economic prosperity in rural America.
Let's turn back to markets and see how things finished after a big news week.
Soybeans rebounded. The China tariffs really began for certain, and I guess that it just took the uncertainty out of the market, and finally we got that a counter trend rally that was long overdue. We've been oversold for so long. The market's been down for 6 weeks, and these aren't just like not any weeks. This is right at the beginning of summer where all the fundamentals actually look to the bullish side, but these tariffs have absolutely capped this market. Corn was also rising. It was trading in the same range really for the entire week, but now we're at the higher side, and it was really surging towards the end of the day there. The lower corn estimate could be one reason that's underpinning the market, and right now we are moving into a little bit of a drier spell for corn. Wheat was mixed today. That dry weather in Europe is what kind of started this market off in the beginning. Now, interestingly enough, it did start lower and it started to move higher. Now it's 7 or 8 cents higher. So we had about a 15-cent range today. Now, hogs had an interesting bounce. The futures really started lower as cash prices were lower, but the market was able to rebound. Now, there has been better demand, and that kind of turned it around. These tariffs are already, again, baked into the market here, and so we're seeing a little bit of a counter trend coming in here at the end of this week. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Mike Flores, Flores Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. And Mike, as we look at last Friday and the news about tariffs, which we knew was coming, came out, markets rebounded. And there was a lot of green on the board, not across the board, but in a lot of places. Is that a surprise to you, or what might be behind that?
Well, I think it was on soybeans anyway. It was buy the rumor, sell the fact, or in reverse. This has been priced in. We've had a $2 decline in beans. We've had about a 60-cent decline in corn. So I think it was already priced in, and now this is just a bit of a relief rally. I think that the markets have put in some significant lows. I think they're going to move higher over time. You certainly, though, don't want to buy the first rally up. You got to buy the pullbacks, but I think that's what you do from now on is you buy the dips, you do not sell the rallies. Yeah. Beans were up something like 25 cents. Yeah. If they pull back halfway, start looking around, because I think some significant lows have been made in the grain markets for multi-month lows.
Yeah, you feel like maybe we've hit some of those lows. Yeah. We do have weather, and we've got the summer to get through, right? I mean, is that a big part of this?
Well, for sure. I mean, it's always a risk. Right now, crops are rated pretty highly, but they're probably going to start trending down. But I think it's going to be beyond that. I mean, I think we're going to have decent-sized crops this year, but also the usage is very strong. Like as an example, our soybeans are 17% cheaper than our Brazilian's beans. Right. So we're going to feed the world still. It's just going to be different customers, I believe. But there's a value to the grains, and I think they're undervalued at this point. There's got to be a rebalancing up.
Yeah. At the end of the day, there's only so much grain in the world, and we have a pretty good appetite for the amount of grain that's been produced, globally. Yeah. Anything else change in dynamic between now and fall and harvest?
Well, the weather's going to be the main thing. China is behind us now. We got to search for new markets, but I think ethanol is very strong. There's a lot of positives within the grain demand too. We've just been focusing so much on China, where the funds went from big longs to big shorts, and they muscle the markets so far, and they're not very good traders. They just muscle you out, and they will make the lows when they decide to get out of their shorts.
Okay, so we'll be watching that. All right, appreciate it, Mike. Thank you for the perspective. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For a free 2-week trial to Mike's trading recommendations, call Flores Trading at 800-841-2108.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here with Cindy Clausen, looking at the drought monitor. And Cindy, as we look back, some of these places getting a little bit of rain lately, but we still have drought and dryness, especially out west.
Oh, absolutely. The Four Corners region especially has been really, really dry. Let's see if we can maybe add a little bit to it this week. But as we take a look at the map, you'll be able to see that even though we're going to start seeing increased moisture in the southwest with monsoonal rains, we have a long way to go to get rid of that drought. Let's take a look at what we had over the last week. This is Saturday through Friday. Concentration in the eastern 2/3 of the country, especially down here right along the Gulf Coast. We've had some increased rainfall, many areas 2 to 3 inches of rain, perhaps a little bit more in spots over the week. But then we had another bullseye up here in parts of the northern plains and the upper Midwest, especially southwestern Minnesota and parts of eastern South Dakota, where we had a lot of rain, and we saw some pictures of flooding from there last week. All right, let's take a look at what we have in store for us. Here's the jet stream, and we've got this ridge, and that extends all the way up right along the U.S.-Canadian border, and it's going to stay there. We're going to see these warm temperatures continuing right on through the week for a good chunk of the country. Now, as we get towards the weekend, we'll eventually start to see a little bit of a trough that starts to head through in the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes. So that'll bring some stormy weather there. But yeah, it's going to be hot for most of the country, and that heat really expands northward in the west come next Monday. All right, here's a look at the temperatures. We are expecting most of the country to see above normal temperatures. A little cooler, but we're expecting a little more rain in some of the southern parts of the country. As far as precipitation over the next week, we're looking at drier conditions in the northern plains and in parts of the northwest, but on the wet side with that unsettled kind of afternoon heat and humidity in the southeast, and of course with that monsoonal moisture in the southwest. Fairly normal precipitation as you head up into the Great Lakes and into the northeast. Looking a little bit further into the future, your 30-day temperatures remain warm as well. Pretty much the entire northern tier of states and almost the entire western part of the country. The only areas that we're expecting, well, close to normal temperatures are right here along the Gulf Coast states and into the southeast. Now, as far as precipitation, and this is a big one over the next 30 days, we're going to be on the dry side. It looks like through much of the plain states and into the northern plains and even into the western and central corn belt. Above normal precipitation with that monsoonal moisture in the Four Corners region. That will help a little bit with drought, but again, you got a long way to go. And above normal moisture expected in the southeast. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the forecast where you live. Rawlins, Wyoming, mostly sunny for you with a slight chance for an afternoon shower or thunderstorm, a high of 89 degrees. Sunny and hot in Chanute, Kansas today with a high of 91. Reynoldsville, Pennsylvania, sunny and warmer with a high of 84.
The ag industry is on the hunt for farm equipment. Machinery Pete joins us with the details next. And later, they're grating pies, jam, or just straight off the bush. It's blackberry season in Tennessee today on In the Country. There may be black swans in turmoil and trade, but used equipment markets are red hot. Machinery Pete explains.
Well, folks, demand for good used hay equipment has been on the rise here in 2018. Now, in the second quarter, we saw a 62.4% increase in search traffic to used hay equipment at our machinerypete.com website, where we got 110,000 pieces for sale. Now, obviously, seasonality is a part of this, but still, 62%, that's a pretty big jump. Now, recently, we saw a record high auction price on a disc bind. Here's a picture of it, 2015 New Holland H7220. This thing had only cut just under 200 acres. So it was like new condition, sold on a farm auction in Northeast Ohio June 15th, went for $18,750. The previous record high auction price was $17,100, so beat it by quite a bit. Now if we get specific and break things down, the top 10 most searched hay equipment items so far in 2018 at machinerypete.com, many of them have been rakes. 2 Coons, an SR112 and an SR110. Now, 2 weeks ago I covered a consignment auction in west central Illinois where a really nice Coon SR110 sold for $4,750. And here's a picture of Richard, the happy buyer of this thing. And right before it sold, I was visiting with Richard and told him about another Coon SR110 that sold recently. Here's a picture of that one. Sold on a farm auction in southwest Minnesota, went for $5,000.
Pick a peck of blackberries from Tennessee Briars. We're off to the volunteer state next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota's BV4580 round baler. Learn more at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
There might not be anything better than warm blackberry cobbler and ice cream. Blackberries are one of nature's tastiest and healthiest fruits. And in Tennessee, midsummer is peak season for harvest. And Charles Denny stops by a pick-your-own berry farm where sweetness is at your fingertips.
Nature's candy ripe for the picking. The blackberries are plump and plentiful at the Cowan Farm in Bradford. 7 varieties over 2 acres.
But everybody remembers going with their mother or grandmother to pick blackberries on the fence row. And that doesn't exist anymore. You can't go pick on the fence row. And so we offer you pick, and of course the berries, once you come out here and pick them and taste them, they're really, really good.
Looking for a niche market in agriculture, Charles Cowan planted his first blackberry bush here in 2010. For about a 6-week summer window, he hosts pickers who can come out and fill a bucket or buy fruit already harvested. Either way, you get a mouthful of sweetness. Plenty of water is key to growing delicious blackberries.
If we pick them when they're ripe, they have all the natural sugars. Even when we have lots of rain, we still probably irrigate them, especially when they're ripening, and that increases the size, makes them plump and sweet too.
We typically think of blackberries growing in the wild, but more and more they're being cultivated and grown without thorns. That's obviously a nice feature for a pick-your-own operation.
At Cowan Farms, you can pick from bushes with or without thorns. Maxine McCarthy is a frequent customer, and this morning brought her great-grandsons out to help pick. She has big plans for these berries.
Yeah, I make pies and I make jam, jelly, fix the jelly, take the juice and make the jelly.
One of the nice things about blackberry in the fruit world is that the time between planting and the first crop is relatively short.
David Lockwood with UTIA Plant Sciences has consulted the Cowan operation on its management practices. He says Tennessee can grow nice blackberries under the right conditions.
But the newer varieties that we've got now are well adapted, and blackberries are a real good crop for our growers. They're quite dependable.
So if you're looking for a tasty fruit, blackberry season rolls around again about midsummer next year. The folks at Cowan Farms invite you out to pick and graze the taste of sweet success. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. UT experts say there are some blackberry varieties that can be grown up until the first frost in Tennessee. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spent part of your week with us, or at least started it with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.